Between the wars, Britain and America produced a variety of avant garde artists. They looked to Paris and European modernism for inspiration, but they produced art that reflected their own national backgrounds. Origins and influences. Nicholson and Barbara Hepworth were at the forefront of the British avant garde movement. They married in 1933 and traveled through France, visiting artists such as Pablo Picasso, Constantin Brancusi, and Jean Arp. Along with Henry Moore, they helped establish Unit 1 in 1933, the first British modernist movement to embrace art, design, and architecture. Other members included Paul Nash and Edward Wadsworth. Unit 1 organized exhibitions across Britain, which sparked debate and polarized opinion on modern art. Subjects. The British avant-garde artists eschewed the urban subject matter and naturalistic style of Sickert's Camden Town group. Instead, they tended toward abstraction but also continued the tradition of British landscape art. In the 1930s, Hepworth's sculpture drifted away from recognizable human forms and became more severe and geometrical. In 1939, Hepworth and Nicholson moved to Cornwall, and the landscape became an important representational element in their work. Moore and Graham Sutherland were also affected by a love of landscape. Moore sculpted figures but found inspiration in natural forms, see smooth pebbles, rolling hills, and animal bones. Sutherland painted landscapes suffused with feeling. Two American artists, Alexander Calder and Stuart Davis, were also connected to the European avant-garde. Both artists lived in Paris in the late 1920s, and Calder extended his stay into the 1930s. The random motion of Calder's steel and wire sculptures was influenced by Dadaists and Surrealists. But his sculptures were also indebted to American folk art. He began as a maker of toys, including a whole circus of animals. Davis was inspired by Cubism, but his subject matter was distinctly American. Unlike his British contemporaries, he celebrated the urban world in joyous, decorative paintings that depicted modern buildings, neon lights, street signs, posters, and commercial packaging. A Hepworth and Nicholson, the couple, were central figures in what the critic Herbert Read called a nest of gentle artists, who lived close together in Hampstead, London, and brought advanced artistic ideas from Europe. Avant-garde in Britain and the U.S. Ben Nicholson. B. Denham, Buckinghamshire, 1894. D. London, 1982. The son of painter Sir William Nicholson, Ben Nicholson was one of the most influential British abstract artists. He began painting in his father's style with a great sense of order and sureness of touch. Nicholson's work was influenced by Cubism, and in particular the genre of still life. He painted his first abstract painting in 1924, and nearly a decade later produced his most innovative work, austere geometric paintings and reliefs. In this later work, Nicholson shifted between abstraction and representation, often in same picture. He cut, painted, and assembled flat boards into elegant abstract reliefs, and also made big, freestanding reliefs, including one in marble in the garden of Sutton Place, Surrey. Although Nicholson admired the work of naive painters, including Rousseau and St. Ives painter Alfred Wallace, his was always an art of high aestheticism and formal rigor rather than instinctive expression. Lifeline. 1910-11 Studies at Slade School of Art. 1920 Marries the artist Winifred Roberts. 1924 First solo show at the 21 Gallery, London. 1933 with Hepworth. Joins the Paris-based Abstraction Creation Group. Produces first geometric and abstract reliefs. 1938 Marries Hepworth. 1951 Divorces Hepworth. 1958 Moves to Switzerland. 1974 Returns to London. 1935 White Relief. In 1933, Nicholson began making abstract reliefs, and by 1935 he had banished all color. This was seen by some critics as a cold, mechanistic extreme of abstract art. This piece, however, was made from an old tabletop found in a junk shop, so it had a worn, lived-on surface. 1935. Painted wood, 102 by 166 centimeters, Tate, London, UK. 1933. Guitar. By using an oddly shaped piece of wooden board rather than canvas, Nicholson created a work that lies somewhere between painting and relief. He admired naive, painters such as retired seaman Alfred Wallace, and the simplicity of the materials and the style here shows their influence. 1933, Oil on Board, 83 by 20 centimeters, Tate, London, UK. Closer look. Textured surface. Nicholson created a lively surface texture by adding a layer of plaster to the board and then cutting into it while it was still wet. Barbara Hepworth. B. Wakefield, 1903, B.S.T. Ives, 1975. Barbara Hepworth was the most important British female artist of the 20th century. Her sculpture in stone, wood, and bronze is suffused with a romantic feeling towards nature and landscape. Indeed, her artworks, with their smooth, rounded forms, almost look as if they have been left to the sea and wind. Hepworth pioneered the technique of direct carving, working without a preliminary model or drawings of what the finished sculpture will look like. She was also the first British sculptor to introduce the whole into work, in her 1931 piece, Pierce Form. During the late 1930s and 1940s, she began to concentrate on the counterplay between mass and space in sculpture. By the 1950s, she was one of the most respected sculptors in the world and won a stream of important commissions, including the Memorial to Dag Hammarskjöld, Single Form, 1963, at the United Nations in New York. Lifeline. 1920-21 studies sculpture at Leeds School of Art. 1921-24 wins County Scholarship to the Royal College of Art, London. 1925 marries artist John Skeeping and moves to Rome. 1926 returns to London. 1933 divorces Skeeping. 1938 marries Nicholson. 1939 moves to St. Ives at the outbreak of World War II. 1943 first major solo exhibition, in Leeds. Three forms. By the mid-1930s, Hepworth's sculpture was becoming increasingly abstract. Here, she uses the simplest forms and eliminates all color. The work can be read representationally as a landscape, or as the head, back, and legs of a reclining female nude. Perhaps the three forms also refer to the triplets Hepworth had in 1934, 1935, marble, 21 by 53 by 34 centimeters, Tate, London, UK. In the contemplation of nature we are perpetually renewed, our sense of mystery and our imagination is kept alive. Barbara Hepworth. 1934. Doves. For centuries, exquisitely detailed Italian sculpture has been made from fine white Parian marble. Hepworth makes this tradition modern by simplifying and smoothing the form of the doves. She learned to carve marble while living in Rome. 1927, Parian marble, 29 by 33 by 22 centimeters, Manchester Art Gallery, UK. Curved form, Trafalgar. Trafalgar is the name of a hill near Hepworth's home. There, Hepworth wrote, "The cliffs divide as they touch the sea facing west." As well as divided cliffs, this piece reminds the viewer of antlers or trees next to a pond. 1956, bronze, 90 by 60 by 67 centimeters, Tate, London, UK. Pelagos meaning sea. In Greek, Pelagos was inspired by a view of the bay at St. Ives in Cornwall, where two arms of land reach out into the sea. The sculpture's sensuous curves also recall other natural forms: a shell, a wave, or the roll of a hill. The strings remind us of a musical instrument, and also of the oft-cited maxim that all abstract art aspires to the condition of music. 1946, part painted wood and strings, 43 by 46 by 39 centimeters, Tate, London, UK. Closer look. Paint and strings. Hepworth used paint and strings in many of her sculptures of the 1940s. She spoke of the color of the paint as plunging me into the depth of water, caves, and shadows, and the taut strings as expressing the tension I felt between myself and the sea, the wind, or the hills,